Ah, here it is. This is the dilemma that is your 20s. And you know what? For a person in their mid 20s, I want to watch this. I want to watch this since I'm, I guess, the ideal audience for this. Yes, yes, taking notes.
Your 20s is a weird time in your life. On one hand, you're at an age where you're fully an adult. All the things you
Yeah.
weren't able to do before because of your age are now free game. Well, that is if you were somehow sane and didn't do any of these things before you turned 21.
Ah, psych
You
at
can
that. I
legally
don't
adopt a
party.
child, rent a car, book a hotel, gamble, drink, buy the ganja, for medical purposes of course. All the limitations on you have been released, and you can now experience being an adult to the fullest. But that's only one side of the coin. On the other hand, you now have to deal with these dreadful things called responsibilities. Scary, I know.
Okay. Turning, like, entering my 20s, finishing my education, starting a job. The beginning of it kind of sounded fun. But the more you do it, and the longer you do it, the more you just resent everything and you become sour. And the time you can enjoy is outside of work when you're at home. I hate having responsibilities thrown on me. So when I'm outside of work, I shut off my brain because I don't want to deal with shit. I want to have fun. So I go out with my partner, I go out with my friend, we hang out, grab drinks, watch videos, YouTube, series, anime, all that stuff. But responsibilities are part of is money as well. And you can't do shit without money. That's where the stress kicks.
Given an anxiety warning. Career, finances, bills,
Mm,
how to
yeah,
behave
yep.
like a healthy adult and become a functioning member of society. You're
Fuck
at an
being a
age where you're
functioning
still
member
early
of
in the game to be
society.
accomplished
I'm
and
a
have things
hermit.
figured out, and therefore people would give you the benefit of the doubt. But at the same time, there are others your age that are already accomplished or have their life
Oh,
sorted out. So that's
this this part agitates me so much to some extent because it's so true. There's just like I'm 25 and I see content creators like big million sub content creators 20, 21, 22 earning millions, and I'm sat here fucking being a fucking VTuber reacting to fucking videos eating chips. Man, that's life for you, I guess.
standard is within the realm of expectations, and those expectations weigh on you and become heavier the older you get. I'm already 20x years old, and I still haven't gotten it together yet.
Yep.
What is wrong with me? But then again, I'm only 20x years old. I still have my whole life ahead of me to figure things out. I should just enjoy.
You see, I hear this often from a lot of people. Between 20s and up to your 30s, you're still figuring shit out so much that only and after you're like in your 30s, you kind of start to enjoy life more because you figured out most of the things in your 20s. So when you're entering in your 30s, it's not as stressful anymore.
My youth. But if I enjoy the now with no regard for my future, what will become of me? You're in a sort of limbo where you can have fun and do stupid things, since being young minimizes consequences. But at the same time, you can also capitalize on being early in the game to invest in your future and build up the asset that is you. Some opt to take the latter route, where they sacrifice fun and take on hardships now in hopes for a better tomorrow, while others, knowing that one way or another, they'll eventually have to enter the boring adult working world, party and have fun while they still physically can. With no clear right or wrong answer, you're tasked with figuring
That
out
was
the balance
definitely
that works
the
with your life.
first part. I
But more
focused
often
more
than
on my
not, you
career.
find yourself asking, what the hell am I doing? Your 20s consist of substantial changes where you're constantly going through different phases in life at different rates than others. When you turn 21, you might go through your party phase where you're constantly going out clubbing and partying.
Aha. Americans. I got a newsflash for you. We become in out here in Europe, in the Slavic countries, we get our alcoholic phase started at 15 and we're done by 18. By the time you're done with your education, your alcoholic phase is over and you just don't want to do it anymore. Like, wait, but like, you start what's equivalent of like your education. I started my education as an IT at 16, and that's when we started drinking beer. By the time I graduated, I was like fucking 19, right? And I done those 3 years. I done the alcohol. I've done the forbidden lettuce. I got those phases done with. Now I just drink now and then, but just casually, instead of being an absolute alcoholic like I did before. So yeah, by the time we enter our 20s, our alcoholic phase is mostly done.
With your friends until 3 a.m. But maybe one Sunday afternoon a couple months later, as you wake up at 2 p.m. with a pounding headache from a nasty hangover and no money in your bank account, you ask yourself, what am I doing with my life? To which you then decide that you're sick of this lifestyle and want to do other things with your time. But just because you're in a new phase in life doesn't mean your friends will be too. They might have not experienced that same existential crisis you did, and therefore still want to go out partying and clubbing.
I fully agree with this. It's how I actually lost contact with a lot of my friends. Right now, outside of this online space, I only have nearby one friend. Okay? Just one, dude. There used to be 10 of us. The reason why is because me and this other friend, we focused more on our careers, whereas the other friends wanted to continue their quotation marks education. So they went to college and further beyond, like the higher level educations. And then at the class reunion, which happened like a few years later, they all basically just kept talking how much they partied and they fell behind in school, like in that education. They have basically done nothing with their life except partied for years, and they're feeling like shit about it. But because they walked away from my part of life, because they went to the capital to continue this education, we lost contact for years, and now it's really hard to just reestablish that spark. So yeah, I do agree that, life is like that, and it fucking sucks.
Maybe you try to bring them with you into your new phase, but to no avail because that's something they have to choose for themselves. Sometimes, being in different phases of life is enough for people to drift apart. Maybe conversations don't click anymore because all your friends talk about is
Horimiya,
partying and
I
drama,
want to
while
watch
all
this
you
again.
talk about is existential purpose seeking and career building, and as a result, you guys go your separate ways. People will constantly come and go in your life. Your friend groups might get smaller. You might get lonelier. And it's in the moments of solitude where you may discover things about yourself that you want to be better at, such as behaviors that stem from traumatic childhood experiences. So now, you have to take steps to
Childhood
heal
traumatic
yourself from the trauma
experiences.
so that you can become a better version of
Too
yourself.
real.
As you do your internal work, there will be days where you feel like you've taken 5 steps forward, and then days where it feels like you've taken 30 steps back. And so, navigate
This 5 steps forwards, 30 steps back. I'm in the 5 steps forward part right now. I'm just waiting for those 30 steps back to hit. I'll be real.
Getting through your 20s is like being on a roller coaster of ups and downs of varying lengths. At one point, you're 10 shots in, dancing to Usher at the club. Next thing you know, you're lying in bed staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. having an existential crisis. At one point, you have tons of friends you can go to hang out with, and all of a sudden, there isn't even one person you can go to when you need them the most.
Too
One day,
real.
you might feel accomplished, like you're really making progress towards a brighter future. And then, out of nowhere, a life experience puts you in your place. And then you find yourself asking,
You know,
out of nowhere, a life experience.
this part right here, my first employment, I loved it, okay? It was physical work, but I loved it. But they reassigned me to a different department after like 8 months, where this department, they were full of narcissists. They gave a shit only for themselves. And they fucking, like, they beat me into the ground with insults and everything possible. So, what happened is one certain morning I parked into the parking lot of the company and I had a mental breakdown. Once I entered the factory, I worked till 9 a.m. from 6 a.m. to 9, which is when lunch break happened. I just dropped my tools and went home. Went on sick leave for like a week. Got corona that same day, conveniently. And then I was let go on the day that my sick leave ended. So I felt relief in that moment. I'll be real, it felt amazing. But at the same time, it's like you lost your job. Shit. You know, what am I gonna do? Luckily, the job I'm currently at was like open for employment. The company didn't even officially start yet. So I sent in my application and at first I did grunt work until within the span of 1 year, I essentially grinded my way into the office position I'm in now, which I do enjoy. My boss is amazing. I love my boss. Like 10 out of 10 would work for her. But like, it's grueling work. It's depressing work sometimes. It's exhausting, mentally taxing. A lot of stuff goes on. But at the end of the day, work is work. I'm there to earn my money and that's it. And yeah,
Puts you in
that's
your
where
place.
I'm at now.
And then you find yourself asking, will life ever give me a break?
No, life doesn't ever give you a break. I'm sorry to break it to you, Chief.
As you go through your 20s, the common theme seems to be confusion and instability. It's like you're wandering through an endless desert with nothing but sand as far as the eye can see. Within this boundless desert is a special something only you can find if you choose to take the journey. And that special something is known as your place in the world. But because it's a desert, the journey is treacherous and full of suffering. Your feet ache, the heat is relentless, and the sun is scorching your skin. Throughout your journey, you may find oasis spots where you can rest and recover, but just when you finally find your footing and feel like things are going to be okay, the sun intensifies and dries out the oasis. So then you're back to wandering aimlessly through the desert. You'll constantly feel lost, and moments of respite seem short-lived. Way too many times will you find yourself wondering what you're doing, where you're going, and what the point of all this
Yeah,
even
your
is.
20s are
And
just
the
super
biggest question of them
confusing.
all,
I hate them.
why? Why are you always suffering? Why are you always encountering problems? Why is it that when one problem is solved, another comes to take its place? Why does it seem like you're not equipped to handle the hardships being thrown at you?
The problem with your fucking 20s is no one prepares you for them. It's like you just get bombarded with so many new things that you were like the second you graduate and start the workforce. You are so new to everything. Bills, taxes. You got like the other responsibilities, apartment. You gotta pay bills, food. There's so many things that you before, while you were still in school, never had to worry about here. Like in my country. In my country, you essentially live with your parents up to your 20s, even like sometimes up to your 30s. And that's normal. But it's still tough. Life in your 20s is not easy for anyone. No matter what country you're in, it always feels like everyone is going through the same shit because the world just doesn't prepare us for it.
Is it a you problem? Is it the way you think? Is it all in your head? Just why? Here's the objective truth. You were born into the world with a set of circumstances completely unique to you and you alone.
That
Your
is
DNA composition
that is
that affects the way
unreal
you
true.
think, behave, perceive, look, to which affect the way people treat you, your upbringing, the location you grew up in, and the cultural and societal effects they have on you and the people around you. The people.
Isn't it wild the amount of circumstances you have to fucking accomplish to be in the situation you're sat in right now? Like, think about it. All the things that had to align in your life to be sat here watching what I'm watching right now is insane. Like, literally, your entire life had to unravel to the point where you are sat right now. Like, every choice brought you to this moment right now, in the present. It's unreal. Anyways.
You've interacted with and the things you've experienced. All these factors exclusive to you shape and mold you into the person you were in the past, the person you are today, and the person you will be in the future. The things we consider hardships, struggles, and suffering are simply a byproduct of all these factors interacting with each other, all over the world, all at the same time. You take the brunt of this byproduct in your 20s because you're still in the early stages of being your own person in this world. When you're a child and under your parents' roof, you don't experience these problems very frequently because your parents looked after you
the
and
parents
were your cover. But as
take
an
care of a lot
independent
of
adult
stuff.
that no longer needs the cover of your parents, you are now vulnerable to experiencing the hardships produced by reality. The suffering was always there. You are just now within its crossfire since you don't have your parents to hide behind as cover. All these things are
So
thrown
you
at
about to
you,
learn
and
today,
because
you
they're new
bet
to
your
you,
ass.
of course you don't know how to deal with them. And because of your unique composition, there is no one-size-fits-all formula for how to address them. And as such, you're left flailing around trying to figure out what to do.
I think all of this also doesn't help if you got issues like me with ADHD. Because the problem with me is I procrastinate things and I also hyperfixate on things. And that shit doesn't go well together, but I'll admit. Like, besides hyperfixating on games, I also hyperfixate on things in real life. Sometimes that shit goes bad at work, especially because at work, I have a tough time sometimes focusing on the task at hand. So I start browsing Reddit, I browse Twitter, YouTube, all that shit. I browse all of that stuff to the point where I'm switching between like 4 different tabs on my browser, plus doing my work, which is being half-assed constantly. And then I don't get nowhere by the end of the shift. So the next day, I somehow hyperfixate solely on that task to make ends meet with the tasks I basically fell behind with the previous day. It's hellish. Life is just catastrophic. I fucking hate it.
And that is what produces your suffering. Sounds bleak and meaningless, right? An unsatisfactory answer. You're suffering because that's just the way the world works? It's precisely because it's an inherently meaningless reality that people seek their own meaning and purpose. Because having a purpose makes it easier to cope with reality and makes life worth living. And for me, my meaning is story. Here's the thing. You don't have to solve your problems. You don't have to find meaningful relationships with others or find your life purpose. You don't have to become a better person. But doing so makes for a damn good story. And I'd rather have mine be one that inspires and brings light into this dark and meaningless world than feed into the negativity and emptiness that's already run rampant. It's within the suffering, confusion, and existential crises that you derive your fundamental meaning and take steps towards finding your place in the world. And because your 20s are full of it, it's the perfect opportunity to transform yourself and create the most kick-ass story. The dilemma that is your 20s isn't finding the right path on the journey that is your life. It's consistently making the decision to even take on the journey, even when life brings you down and presents you with other options. Do you use hardships and suffering to grow and extract meaning, or do you succumb to the weight and numb yourself through distractions?
I definitely am the latter. I just succumb to the weight. I'll be real.
Alright, that got...
Well, thank you for watching today's stream. I think I'm gonna conclude now. Ooh. It's been a hectically long stream, 4 hours and 30 minutes. Thank you everyone for watching and sticking by, dropping in and out. Anyways, besides that, thank you for watching and take care. Have a nice weekend, everyone. Bye bye.